Some folks in from Human Technologies continuing our conversation here. Always interesting, always educational, always learning more. And Nate, you did it again. You lined someone up for us. Nate Link, in-studio manager of marketing communications with Human Technologies. And Nate, what's up, buddy?
Not much. What's going on, guys?
Another day waiting for the sun to be consistent. And,
I think every time we're here, we have that conversation. And we still haven't seen it.
We're
so
still
hopefully
waiting.
next time I bring it.
I still haven't worn shorts yet.
No, but maybe a little ray of sunshine, a different kind of sun. You brought a new gentleman with you today to talk about a different aspect of Human Technologies.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Thank you. So I have, again, and I just want to start off, thank you guys for this platform. We always appreciate it. I have Dan Kupiak with me today. Dan is our Director of Supply Chain Services. And I know we've had the opportunity to be on the show a bunch of times, and we provide a full overview of Human Technologies and who we are. And for anyone who's missed that, please go to htcorp.net.
We do have new listeners every time, so take 1 minute.
So I'm going to go. So that's for the broader overall look at what we do, htcorp.net. But in short, Human Technologies is a social enterprise with a mission to create employment for people with disabilities. I would rather say people with differing abilities because we like to focus on what abilities are.
Right.
When we are 100% self-sufficient, so meaning we don't rely on galas, golf tournaments, any outside funding.
Or government grants, right?
Yep, nothing like that. Nope. Rather, we operate across 5 different lines of business to support our mission. And today, Dan and I are here to talk about one of those lines of business. It's screen printing and embroidery, and on a larger scale, uniform management services. So I'll talk a little bit about screen printing and embroidery. And again, this is your traditional screen printing and embroidery services. Screen printing, embroidery, digital transfers, sublimation, promotional items.
Is that, just to be clear, is that if you have something on your shirt or a product?
Yeah. So it's custom shirts,
Yeah.
custom all custom clothing, different apparel. And this is nothing new to us. We started this in the late 1970s.
No, you don't make the clothing, correct? You just put the shirt you've got on says Human Technology.
Correct.
You would put that on, but the shirt would come from some other source.
Correct. Yeah. So we just add the value to it. Yeah.
Right.
So whether it be the embroidery, the screen print, the patch, whatever it is, we started this in the late 1970s. This was one of our first really larger lines of business. So we've been doing this for a while. In the 80s. We had a contract to screen print express mail bags for the post office. We were doing 300,000 of those at a time. Mark, to your point, we used to actually sew our own shirts under the Utica Tees label, and all the T-shirts for the good old summertime festival in downtown Utica were actually made and screen printed by Human Technologies.
I was going to see, I've seen that label. I'm old enough.
For the Utica Tees label? Yeah, so that was us.
And there's some vintage ones I'm sure, flying around maybe on
Yes,
on
we found
eBay
one at
or
a
something.
local shop downtown. Yep.
Yep, and got too expensive to do it or something. Why would you
I think it was just it didn't take off as well. The screen print and embroidery was really the big thing, and I think we shifted the focus more into that. And I think a lot of our sewing went to a lot of defense contracts and things of that nature where it's a little more needed. But we also, a lot of DOT, a lot of DEC, a lot of those type of contracts we went through. And then we had a beautiful relationship with the Boilermaker for many years. We were their official merchandiser. So for the road race, we used to pick out all of the merchandise, screen print, embroider everything. We would set up a store right at the expo on expo weekend. We would, on race day down at the finish line, we'd have a store set up. As the digital age came about, we offered an e-commerce solution for that. We did the same thing.
And we had the committee meetings right at your place.
We had the committee meetings right at our building. That's correct. Yeah, we were great partner with the Boilermaker. And then we did that for another road race, the Army 10-miler. It's America's second largest 10-mile road race in Washington, D.C. It starts at the Pentagon, does a beautiful loop through the mall, and goes back and finishes off at the Pentagon. And through that, those larger scale contracts, we kind of looked at the future and what else could we do with this thing? And that's when we got into full uniform management services at a larger scale. Our first contract being with the U.S. Forest Service back in, I think, 2007. And I'm going to give it over to Dan and let him tell you a little bit more about that.
You ready, Dan?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
All right.
Nate always sets me up.
Dan
well.
Kupiak, the Director of Supply Chain Services and Uniform Management Services. And I think Nate did a great job of getting the context out to this. But what exactly, for what Uniform Management Services is, what is that in terms of what's going on there, what's going through it?
As Nate described, so back in 2007, Human Technologies had the opportunity to bid for the U.S. Forest Service apparel contract. So that would be the Federal Forest Service at the federal lands throughout the whole country. And I wasn't with the company at that time. I started in 2009, but the contract was awarded to Human Technologies in 2007. And what that entails basically is creating and I have to look at my notes here because there's so many details to this part of it, but so you have a full service uniform management and you have consulting and program development. So consulting with the uniforms, the apparel, the fit, form, and function of the uniforms. You create online ordering. So we create the website specific to them. It has to be obviously a secure website because you're dealing with federal customers. At that point, you create a catalog, you work with all of the products, and then on our websites, we started a new thing for us was allowance management, which kind of set us apart. So what that basically means is you shop on Amazon, use your credit card. With the federal programs like the Postal Service or Army Corps of Engineers, each employee will get an allowance. So they might get $500 a year. We manage that for them on their website. So they literally can see how much money they have and how much they spend. And then that creates all of the reporting for the government when they want to see who bought what, how much did they buy.
So they can pull up their account right there when they're purchasing something from you and see what's left in their account.
Absolutely. And then for the accounting end of it for the government, it's tracking the money, where it's going, and how much is spent. It's controlling it. Instead of giving somebody a blank check and saying going to get uniforms, there's a certain allowance. And you have an allowance for maybe a new employee that is higher, and then an employee who's been there for years, they may get a lower allowance. But basically, it's just managing those funds. And then we have a customer service department that takes care of returns. But the big part of it is obviously the value add, as Nate said. We do have to source the products and work with specific, if it's American companies, because each one of these programs that we deal with, they have different requirements.
Right, you have different sizing requirements too in your charts.
Sizing, but the most important one is where is it made?
Yeah. Oh, really?
Because it's a federal contract.
Oh, yeah.
So there are different elements with that. So the DoD started way back with the Berry Amendment where everything had to be made and sourced in the U.S., and now there are different
percentages.
Yeah, so the Berry Amendment is something that it's 100%.
Gotcha.
Even the box that it gets put in
Did
at the
you
end
say
of the
Berry Amendment?
Berry Amendment.
So that's some legislation.
That was the Department of Defense. So, and I'm not exactly sure what World War I or World War II, but it was something that started so to make sure that everything that was being made with U.S. components and by U.S. citizens and with the thread, the boxes, and things like that. Times have changed. So some of those
components, maybe?
Yeah, what it is, basically, they have the Buy American Act, they have Trade Agreement Act, so you can work with different countries now that we work closely with, and when NAFTA was enacted with Mexico and Canada. So those details have to be, you really have to pay attention to that. So that we have program managers who follow that to make sure that everything is certified and comes in and goes out the door.
For the different clients' needs.
Yeah. So somebody, say I work for the U.S. Forest Service.
Okay.
So I get $500. That goes to you. You get the money?
No.
I get it, then I give it to you?
Well, actually, no one has any money at the point. You've just been allowed that amount of money to spend.
I see.
So you don't physically get it. But you have an account, a secured account that you sign in, and then you purchase the uniforms through that account. And then we provide those uniforms. And that's when our people at our facility do the decorations, the personalizations, the hemming, the sewing, if it requires screen printing or embroidery, and everything.
So then you access the funds.
So then what we basically do on certain accounts is we will then ship the order, and then we will bill the government at the end of the month. And all of the reporting from all of the items we shipped out is what we bill them on. So then the government pays us those invoices that we've shipped out. So we're not holding the money, we're just managing the program and then billing the government. And then we can satisfy any requirements they have with any kind of accounting paperwork that they need to see where the money was spent.
Dan, is it easier to do a government contract or a private contract? Because I'm sure you have some with private vendors and some with government. Is one of them that's easier than the other?
I would look at contracts are contracts. So if you've dealt with a contract, they're delicate and they're intricate, and you have to really be very careful with them. I wouldn't say they're easier. The government contracting, I think it can be easier because it's very specific. And I'm the type of person, like, tell me what you want, tell me exactly how you want it done, and we can follow those. We can follow that. If it's a little bit ambiguous and you have a contract and there's some wording in there that you might be able to do that, I really prefer the government contracting because it is very specific, and if you
very defined of what they're
and at that point it's much easier to tell somebody to do exactly this or instruct them to do exactly this than to say it can be just like this.
And also in those fields or those professions, there is a definition on how you must present yourself, and there are certain procedures or protocol in which you can or cannot wear.
Yeah, I will tell you this.
So Rocco and I may wear my T-shirt today. And
exactly.
you can
so you think about uniforms or you think about clothing, and everybody's like, hey, you just buy these uniforms, but it is actually very complicated because you have to go through a process of, we have the uniform, like for the Forest Service as an example, they have a very special green color, so our shades have to match exactly. The uniforms have to be made in specific locations. Everything has to be made exactly the same so that anyone who's wearing it looks the same. So what happens is, when the product comes in, after it's been vetted and our purchasing department goes through all of the samples, when the product comes in, it has to be inspected. So the people on our folks and people with disabilities or without disabilities are working on these programs, and they're using specifications to make sure that everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. Measurements, sleeve measurements, everything has to be perfect. So I think you just had the sheriff in his uniform, very specific, everything on there, where his name badge is, where the badge is located, where the patch is on the sleeve, the same height. It's all very detailed. And what that gives us is we have an incredible quality program that the management watches everything we do, but I'm going to dovetail back to what Nate was talking about. Because we do these intricate work for the Army Corps of Engineers, for Customs Border Protection, things like that, you're seeing on TV, it's coming from Utica. Believe it or not. When you see a lot of these uniforms, it's coming from Utica. I've watched the news and seen.
How can you tell? How can you tell it's
you're the only group designing those, right? Or doing those, right?
For the
they have
first,
to be consistent, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the Forest Service, and when you say that, that's parks and rangers?
No, actually, the Forest Service is a federal land. Parks and Rangers is a different contract.
Okay.
So Parks and Rangers actually falls under Department of Homeland Security.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a different type of contract. But they look similar. You're thinking Smokey Bear hat, that kind of thing. It's similar, but there are different colors and different shades. And
which kind of goes back to what you were saying, right? They need to be specific. They need to be defined. They need to be...
And I will say that they're very territorial. So if you look at any agency, even locally, Utica police want to look a certain way. They don't want to look like New Hartford police, or they don't want to, and the New York State Troopers, which we provide uniforms to the troopers. They have a very specific shade that has to be consistent. And if it doesn't pass, it gets rejected. So there's no gray area in these colors.
No gray in the gray.
Well,
You said management. You said uniform management. So is that referring to the money that you manage? You don't, when they don't send the uniforms to you to be cleaned or to be repaired, or do they?
No. So you're talking different types of contracts that other services might have. Cintas is a company that provides uniforms but also cleans them, comes in and goes back and forth. Uniform management basically means we are going to take let's say you have an agency, you have 50 people, and you say I need uniforms for 50 people. I've got a department, there's 10 of them that do cleaning, and there's 20 that are sales, and there's the 20 that do something else. You're going to come to us and you're going to have an idea of what you want them to wear and how to present. So what we're going to do is take you through that process, and we're going to get the uniforms, the pieces, the apparel articles that you're asking for, have you approve them, and create a standard. And by creating the standard, it means that every day, whenever we ship out whatever the item is you're asking for, it will always be the same. So that's the standard. So we're going to manage the standard and make sure that what you've chosen you're going to get.
And when you go back, you're going to have that same reference point that, hey...
Always.
So once it goes out the door, then you're done. No.
Once it goes out the door, then it is a matter of making sure the customer is satisfied. So even though they're federal employees or state employees, they're customers. So you have to make sure they're satisfied. So you want the product to get out there, and we're a clothing company, so we have the customer service department. Oh, I ordered a shirt, it's too big. I need to return it. So we have a returns department. We have customer service you contact. We have all of that to handle defects or any problems like that. So then when products come back, we credit their account and we ship them out a new product. Or there could be an error at some end that we have to correct. Or there's other things like that. So that's the beginning of it. But just as an example, the Forest Service, and we're talking about them a lot, but they have a 3-day ship requirement, which means once we receive the order, we have to ship out within 3 days. That means we have to have inventory and projected inventory, enough on hand to do this within 3 days. So the staff has to make sure they're always looking at sales history and making sure we're on top of that.
I was going to go back to that. So you're expected to have this specific turnaround time when you have these contracts and you're providing these uniforms and you're managing these uniforms. But is there always, and I guess this would be the successful part of the business, is there enough turnaround? So are there enough pants by the U.S. Forestry being ordered? Or is someone ordering a pair of pants every 2 years? Or and I'll go back. So I would assume that there is this consistency that that maybe every 2 months someone in the forestry department is ripping their pants and they're going to be ordering a new pan. You're going to need them.
So with the allocation management, I watch that closely, and I work with the Forest Service, so I can see how much money is coming in and how much money they're going to spend, and we can project what they're probably going to purchase.
The life usage of these
and we've been doing this
uniforms,
since 2007, so the history that we've built up in our reporting is we can pretty much project what the sales are going to be. The only difference with something like this is because it's for the agency and they get their money, they could buy a winter jacket in the spring or the summer versus working for a sporting goods store, which I used to do. You project your sales based on the season. So you're never worried about selling a winter jacket in the spring.
Everybody
so
waits till it snows.
And you didn't have it in stock. So with uniform programs, you have to have everything in stock because you don't know what they're going to have.
So before you explained very eloquently the business there, the customers, what's actually produced, but now to tie it into human technologies, if I'm not lost in the conversation here, some of the people that do all this work you described, are all of them hired through, employed through human technologies?
We do have subcontractors, so when the clothing's made, but when it comes into Utica, everything is human technology.
When it comes
the uniform management services is all human technology.
It's all human technology.
And again, to not lose sight of this, the human technologies could employ people who don't have any disabilities, correct? And the point here is that this does give opportunities and has for years to give people with disability. Nate, you described it in which way, other than disabilities? What was
Differing abilities.
Differing abilities.
Yeah.
That they still are very skilled. They're still able to do things. They just have different challenges that they have to overcome than most people. Yeah. So those individuals, whatever their challenges might be, and what you described there in the business model is very quality oriented and very specific. Is it a challenge to ensure that the people that are employed through human technologies, whatever their different abilities might be, are up to the task of being able to do all of those specifics that you need?
Yeah, it's a challenge, but I wouldn't say it's because they may have a disability. I think it could be a challenge if you go to McDonald's.
For anybody,
you may not get your order correctly. You know what I mean? So it's always a challenge. We have incredible supervisors and managers. We have a dedicated staff that when people come to work at Human Technologies, they're getting. And I'll speak for myself, but I know that I'm speaking for other people. I get in the car, I'm going to Human Technologies not to fulfill the uniform program, I'm to fulfill this mission that we're on. And the mission is to provide this employment for people with disabilities, to give them an opportunity for independence, to add to the community, to have a social network, to basically feel the worth that they deserve, because they're incredibly qualified people. They just may not have a certain skill that you or I have, but they have skills that I don't have.
Yeah.
And so the challenge is, it's not really a challenge, because when you're going to work because you want them to succeed, that's what you do.
And in that type of work, what have you noticed? Whatever their differing disabilities might be, people take pride in their work. What makes them from what you've experienced, very proud about this type of work that they do? Is it when they might see it on TV, or they know that people are wearing the clothes that they're working on or finalizing here?
I know that they're proud, because what we do, sometimes we'll have agencies that will come in for tours or audits. They'll come and audit us, and the agencies will take the time to speak to the staff. And when they get them around in a circle and they're talking about how important the work is that they're doing for the federal government, you can just see it on their faces how proud they are to do the work. Yeah. But what you really see is how efficient and their levels of efficiency that they want to do the work.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to. I don't want to separate saying they have a disability and they. These are fellow coworkers that are people who just work really hard and take it seriously. And what they say to me when I come in is, "Do we have more work coming?
Yeah.
Do we have another contract coming?
We need more people like that."
They're not avoiding coming to work. We want more work. And I've seen people just come in who really don't speak to people. They don't look up. They don't communicate very well. And then within a year or two, they've bought a car. They have an apartment.
Oh, wow.
They're coming out and they're doing things socially with other people. It changes.
So there are
their lives.
other skills and things start to develop. That's
Absolutely.
pretty awesome.
I have a question. I'm going to say something. If I'm wrong, correct me. I'm going to make an assumption. My assumption is some of this work that they do could be repetitive and tedious, and that for some people who might have not differing abilities, they might not find that something they want to do. But people who may have a limited ability may be more willing to work at something that's repetitive and tedious and be satisfied with that, doing that type of job.
So I don't have to correct you.
just
You're not
if I'm
wrong. So what we do is when we have people come in, we look for them to succeed. So we look at their skill level and try to put them in a position where they are going to succeed. But the nice thing about Human Technologies is because of our different lines of businesses, we've had people who may not. So again, part of the uniform program is you're picking and packing all of these uniforms. You may find somebody who says, I do this every day, it's boring, or I'm just not very good at it. We have these other areas that you can try. Maybe we can try you in receiving, in inspection, or other lines of businesses. So you're exactly right. There are people who their skill level, or maybe just they adapt to something. They are okay with repetitive work.
It certainly shatters the misconceptions that someone with a disability may not have the same abilities or skill levels because of what you just mentioned there, Dan. So the quality control, the management that you do when you're working with these contracts, such as the federal government or the foresters, they're not going to play around. They're not going to wait around for opportunities or mistakes. So they're looking to you because you provide that quality of care.
Correct.
You're there consistently for them every time.
Understanding one thing that we're talking about Human Technologies does, and we're talking about people with disabilities performing these actions, but the end user, their customer, doesn't know that. So we are competing with the commercial world. Don't go out and say, hey, work with Human Technology because we have this mission. We go out and say, we do quality work. We can perform this for you. And then sometimes after they find out that they're working with a company that people have disabilities. So when you go on the website that we provide to the customer, it says Human Technologies. It may say South Carolina Forestry, order. At that point, the customer doesn't know where the uniforms are coming from.
They don't know Tom or Steve or
nor
Jane
do they
or whomever.
care. As long as it's correct, that's the end product, and that's what we're looking to
And
do.
this is and we're about out of time now with this, but that's a great story of the success that comes out of Utica and Human Technologies here. And I think this segment just really sheds light on, I think, a part of our economy and a part of our society and part of our peoples that we, like you said, we don't notice. We don't wonder where these things come from. We just wear them, we just buy them, and then you realize it's coming from not only Utica, but it's coming from people that are given an opportunity to succeed and to build self-confidence and then maybe get their own independence. And that's what Human Technologies is all about. And Nate, if you want to just wrap up in a final word here, I don't know if part of this is that there's an opportunity for people to apply for any of these jobs as well, or whatever final word you want to do.
Yeah, so htcorp.net, there's always opportunities in all these. We're ever growing. We have a new contract coming up with the Virginia Forest Service right now. We're in negotiations with them right now. We're ever growing that department. Yeah, so there's always opportunities. And then across the board at Human Technologies, we're very diverse in what we do. But again, leaning back to everything we talked about today, uniform management services, the root of that is screen print and embroidery services. We've been doing that for years. So we put the same level of quality that we would put in that Forest Service shirt and polo into our neighbor down the road who's getting 20 T-shirts for their auto body shop.
Isn't your message really that you get more out of a job than a paycheck?
Of course you do. Of course you do. Everyone takes for granted going to work until you don't have the opportunity to go to work. It's more than just a paycheck. It's the social component of it. It's making an impact within your community. It's someone who the world has always focused on what they can't do, and then you go somewhere where you're supported and you're focused on what you can do and unleashing that potential within an individual. That's what it's all about.
We had a young 17-year-old student in this morning, and he said, just one line that I wrote down, he said, everyone values their time, right? Everyone values their time. So, and I think there is a value in everyone's time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're certainly, I think, putting that value. But, yeah, if you want to continue and wrap up there.
Yep.
But, yeah, give us information, how we find out
so again,
more.
So for any of your, please contact us, htcorp.net. Pretty much anywhere you go on that website, there's a contact form. If you want to step out of the digital age, 315-724-9891. Ask for Nate, ask for Dan. We'll walk you through the whole process, get you set up. And again, guys, thank you for giving us this platform. We sincerely appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Yeah, we enjoy it.
Organization.
We
It's
learn
nice to know about it.
Thank you.
Nate, great job. Dan, great job. Nice to meet you. Hopefully we can do this again sooner than later.
Beautiful.
All right, yeah.
And I think one of these times you could bring in some of the workers
Bring
there.
some folks
we can
in.
get to know
That'd be
them.
great.
Yeah, we'd love to.
That'd be awesome. All right. Enjoy the rest of the day. And Nate, next time the sun will be shining, hopefully.
I
All
will
right.
wear my
Yes.
shorts
All
next
right,
time,
good. I
hopefully.
like it. Stick with us. We'll put all the information up there, htcorp.net. And again, we'll put the link up there so you can find out more of what Human Technologies does.